Welcome to another episode of Phantom X Archive. I'm your host, Dinara Tengri, aka Alien Super Soldier. Before we dive into this month's episode, I just want to give you a little heads up and say that there will be no episode next month. I'm going to take a little break from podcasting so I can focus on my schoolwork. As you know, I am in grad school and it's a lot of work, and May is really the month of finals and assignments that I need to finish. So there will be no podcast next month. This month, however, I have a very special episode for you, a very special guest, my friend who I met at FileFest. His name is Dillon Glover. And the reason I wanted him to come on my show is, well, he's a good friend, but also because I find his story of how he became a fan of the X-Files so fascinating, because the story shows that there is no one way a person becomes a fan of the X-Files. There are so many fascinating, interesting stories about how different people fall in love with a show like the X-Files. This podcast isn't so much about the X-Files, it's a podcast about the X-Files fandom. And part of my mission with this podcast is to explore and celebrate all the different ways that people fall in love or have fallen in love with this fantastic show. And Dillon's story is truly one of a kind. I'm not going to spoil too much so that you can listen to our conversation with. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. I am here tonight with Dillon Glover, my friend that I met at FileFest last year. Now, this is so fascinating because when we met at FileFest, I sat down to charge my phone. I sat on the floor, and he was already sitting there, just like having conversation with someone. And then we started talking, and he just started telling me these amazing stories about how he got into the X-Files all those years ago. And I just could not stop listening. And I thought, well, this is the most fascinating fan I have met ever. And I would love to have him on the show someday. And then we became friends on Facebook. And then he reached out to me and said, listen, I want to be on your show. And I thought, well, of course, hell yeah. And so here we are. And I am just going to clam up and let Dillon just tell his story about how he got into the X-Files and his history with the show and the fandom. So take it away, Dillon.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And it was definitely a pleasure meeting you at that convention. That convention came about because I was in Saratoga and somebody mentioned at the table, they just said, they asked out of the blue, was I going to Minnesota? And I was like, what's in Minnesota? And that's how that came to be. He told me about it. I looked it up. I'm like, there is no way I'm going to miss this. And especially with that photo op with the 20 different characters from the show. This show is my life, basically. It came at a time in my life that it impacted me to the point where I have a reason to be the person I am as far as my past, things that I've been through, and I couldn't confirm, and I couldn't talk to nobody about the stuff I had been going through. That show hit at the exact moment I needed it to in my life. To take it back, I'm kind of like, I would have to give you a little bit of background of me, myself, and then show you how it correlates to when the X-Files came about. I'll say that I will start with, I want to say 90 or 91. I think it was 91 the book Behold the Pale Horse came out. And at that point in my life, I was not into UFOs. I was more so into spirituality. I was more so into the information out of Robert Monroe's book called Journeys Out of the Body. And as a child, I was real fascinated with death because I always wanted to know what actually happens at death. I mean, I'm a little kid. I mean, my dad tells me one day you're going to die, and that terrified me. So I immediately needed to know, and that became like my life's pursuit at the age of 6 to find out what happens at death. So the only thing I was concerned about as a little kid was needing to know, do we survive death? Okay. So I got into haunted houses. I saw Amityville. There used to be a show in the 80s that came out. It was called That's Incredible, kind of like Unsolved Mysteries, but it was just for the 80s. And it was one episode I remember clearly. I was watching the show I was watching that night when they aired this episode about a haunted Toys R Us in California. Um, I recently looked it up, and it's Sunnyvale, California. It's a famous episode on that show, and they showed a picture. They were holding like a seance, and that's where Sylvia Brown, the psychic, came from. That's what gave her some fame and notoriety. Was from that episode of That's Incredible, and they took a picture holding kind of like a seance, and they take this picture of them sitting in one of the aisles of the Toys R Us, and you see this figure, a shadowy figure of a man standing in the aisle, and that's who they were communicating with. I remember that like it happened last week. Like I said, this was like late 70s, early 80s. I want to say like 78, 79, 80, 81, sometime around in that era. But when that show happened, a lot of people don't remember that. It was a big deal back then. When that happened, it was a big deal because they said this is authentic. We actually have proof that people survived death. That was a big thing at that point. So that's where my head was at. I had confirmation from That's Incredible. So I kept pursuing like haunted houses. Um, then I got into, well, if I have a spirit, and my brother used to talk about not being able to move at night, sleep paralysis, and he would. Man, my mother, father, and brother on Friday nights used to sit down in the living room and to have these paranormal discussions, about stories in the family, people seeing ghosts. And my brother used to always bring up this occurrence he would have in the middle of the night where he couldn't move. He didn't know what it was. He keep telling my mother and father, I don't know what it is, but I can't. I wake up and I cannot move, and I hear sounds and this and that and blah blah blah. So I came up on hearing about my brother's sleep paralysis, and then we had a term for that was associated to sleep paralysis, which is astral projection. So I got into astral projection. I read Journeys Out of the Body. I read Sylvain Muldoon's The Projection of the Astral Body first. Then I read Robert Monroe's Journeys Out of the Body. There is an illustration, an exercise, a mental exercise that's written in one of the chapters of his book. It's just a simple exercise, and I applied that, and it worked. I literally confirmed that it's a reality that we do have a spiritual body, etc. So from there, I'm working now, Capitol Hill Post Office. I started ordering tapes from the Monroe Institute, training tapes called the Gateway Experience. I don't want to really be plugging this stuff, but you can edit it out if you want later. I don't mind if you edit it out. But I started grabbing all this material. It was cassette tapes, a program you can use at home because I didn't have enough money back then to go to the Institute. So I'm heavily involved in metaphysics and esoterics at the age of 19. Okay, starting like 15, like actually practicing this stuff from 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm with the Monroe, getting with the Monroe information, 19, 20, 21. I'm ordering tapes. So in 1990, 91, I have my Gateway Experience programs. I'm facilitating that within me. I'm facilitating the ability to conjure up the sleep paralysis to go into a projection or out of body experience. So I'm learning how to do all this stuff. This is 1991. So 93, I left my job in May of 93 and moved to Hollywood, Florida. This is 93, May. June the 1st, I moved June the 1st to Hollywood, Florida. I left the post office May 1st, 93. 4 weeks later, I'm in Hollywood, Florida. Okay, we're talking 93. And at some point, okay, so I started and I was training down there. And what I would do on Friday evenings after training, I would go to the bookstore. I would buy um, UFO magazines. It's something I'm leaving out because before I got down there, it was a book called Crash at Corona. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly how I got that book, but it was called Crash at Corona. I don't know why I got it or I don't know what made me get it, but I bought that book, read through it, and that was about Roswell crashes. It was two
Oh,
of them concerning that in that book. It was about the Roswell crashes and a crash at Corona, which is two different crashes that happened within the same week of the Roswell crash. All right, I got that, and it piqued my interest because they said they had bodies. I'm like, hold up, man. I mean, this is like I was not into UFOs. I wasn't into aliens. But reading this book and they're saying they got bodies, the first thing I thought was a civilization from another planet actually was here. That's that piqued my interest.
right.
Then Behold the Pale Horse came out. I don't remember what made me buy that book. I think my brother had it and he wouldn't let me get his copy, so I went and bought my copy, something to that effect. But I bought that book and read it. So we talking like 91. I bought Behold the Pale Horse in 91 because my brother wouldn't let me take his copy, and I read the book from front to the end in like a day. It was like captivating because they're talking about all this stuff about the government having ships, more than one ship, and these guys having bodies and back engineering ships, and the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations. So I'm like, okay, this is a heavy book, and his name started kind of permeating the UFO community. William Milton Cooper, that was his name. So that's 91, 92. I started going to the bookstores after training, and it was the four main UFO magazine. One was called UFO Library. I think one was called UFO Magazine. One was called, I believe, UFO Sightings, and I can't remember the fourth one. But I will buy all four of those on Friday, read front to back, go to the classifieds and see what was in the classified section. In the classified section, there was a dude named Dave Aaron, aka Video Dave, and he had a clearinghouse and he had a catalog. You send him a message, I think it was like $1 or two. Send him $1, you send you a catalog. This guy had like the biggest UFO collection like in the world, as far as VHS tapes, cassette audio tapes of radio programs, anything you could think of. More than likely, he had it. It was like over 25,000 pieces of material this guy had. If you watch Unsolved Mysteries and you look at the credits, you'll see it. Whenever they would have episodes with, some UFO footage coming from out of Ontario or wherever, it would most of the times it would come from Video Dave. He was the one supplying Unsolved Mysteries with their footage.
Mm-hmm.
Dave was also the one. He had the Ray Santilli alien autopsy tape a year before it was aired on Fox in '95. He had that 1 year prior to when they aired it. All right, so when I got with Dave, I got his collection, and then I ordered. I had already knew about Bob Lazar from the William Cooper book, the Behold the Pale Horse book. It was mentioned in there about Lazar working at S4, Area 51. So when I got Video Dave's catalog, I saw it was listed that Art Bell. It was a show called Art Bell. I never even heard of the guy. Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell, John Lear, Bob Lazar, and I ordered that tape. And that tape was recorded on the 12th of December, 92. So this is the guy who blew the lid on Area 51. Bob Lazar was the guy who blew the lid on it. If it wasn't for Bob Lazar, we would never know Area 51 existed. So I'm listening
I
to this
remember
tape.
that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. He was the one that blew the lid on it. So I'm listening to the tape, and I'm like, this is incredible. Once I got that tape, I was like, I'm hooked. I'm hooked, line, and sinker. I'm in. I started studying into UFOs. Okay, now I'm in Hollywood in June, July, August, September 10th, '93. The X Files. Man, I remember that like it was yesterday. That show aired. I was sitting on the edge of my bed in my apartment in Hollywood, Florida, off of Washington Street, 56th Avenue. I recorded it. I'm already prepped for it because of Behold the Pale Horse. And I'm watching the show. I'm like, okay. At that time, right before the X Files, earlier that year, Fire in the Sky came out in March. A lot of people don't remember this, but before Fire in the Sky came out, everybody took alien abductions as a joke. They would have people on talk shows and be laughing, kind of like ridiculing them and laughing, making light of the subject. All that changed when Fire in the Sky came out. The movie Fire in the Sky with D.B. Sweeney and Robert Patrick Kelly, the guy who plays Agent Dawgan in X Files.
Oh,
Did you ever see that movie? You ever see that
no,
movie?
no,
Okay,
no.
you need to see that movie. That was the movie that changed everything. That movie changed the whole temperature of the masses concerning alien abduction phenomenon changed when that movie came out. When Fire in the Sky came out, it was no longer a laughing matter. Alien abductions was taken seriously. Even before Fire in the Sky, when Whitley Strieber did his Communion movie, people were still laughing because in his movie they depicted the aliens as like dancing around in the ship. So
Mm-hmm.
they was making light of it even when Communion came out. But when Fire in the Sky came out, it was no laughing matter no more. People took the subject deadly serious. You need to see that movie. If you haven't seen,
I
man, you need
will.
to see Fire in the Sky. That's like
I
a
will.
classic. Like whenever you look at like science fiction television stations and they're advertising their network, they usually show clips from Fire in the Sky in their advertisements. When they're taking like different clips from like 20 different movies for science fiction, it's usually a lot of times they have a snippet of Fire in the Sky in that. A lot of like the major networks, they always have Fire in the Sky where he's sitting on that table with that thing around his eye. You remember the Dwayne Barry episode
Yes,
and on the X Files? Remember when he was on the when they showed Barry on the table and they was drilling his teeth with that laser?
yes.
That scene is paying homage to Fire in the Sky
Oh, I
because that's
see.
how, yeah. And it's another scene when it's another. I don't remember the season, but when they had Mulder, they abducted Mulder and they had him in that ship and they had him stretched out on that ship
Right.
and they was doing like sort of like that's another scene that's paying homage to Fire in the Sky. When you see Fire in the Sky, you know why I'm saying that. You know, it looks exactly the same. The way they have
Oh,
him
wow.
strapped down, it was like, yeah, they were paying homage to Fire in the Sky. But anyway, dang, where was I going? So
X-Files.
yeah,
You
man,
taped the first
yeah,
episode.
okay, yeah, take the first episode, and what I would do is I take the episodes. I want to say those episodes came on Sunday nights after The Simpsons, but I would tape them and watch them every night up until the next episode the following week. So I was hooked, line, and sinker. Um, every episode I've recorded and watched it over and over and over and over again. When they got to second season, I want to say the Dwayne Barry episode. Hey man, when Krychek came on the scene, I'm like, okay, now I can link this kind of to Behold the Pale Horse because once Krychek came on the scene, he killed the train operator, and then he reported back to somebody else. I'm like, okay, that guy kind of reminds me of what I was reading about in Behold the Pale Horse. I'm not talking about Krychek. I'm talking about Cancer Man and the people that he worked with. The syndicate, okay, that's written about in Behold the Pale Horse, and they're called the Council on Foreign Relations. And they have representatives in all the countries around the world. And they were the ones responsible for MJ12. They were the ones pulling the strings. So when I'm watching the X Files and I see the Syndicate, I can link that back to Behold the Pale Horse, right? I'm like, this is all in. I was prepped for this. That's why I kept saying this TV show came at the appropriate time in my life that I needed it because I can walk along with the show and understand a little bit more of what's going on. All right. So out comes the movie, Fight the Future. And all that time I've been telling people, man, a lot of this stuff comes straight out of Behold the Pale Horse. If you read Behold the Pale Horse, you could follow along with the X Files. It's a scene in Behold the Pale Horse. I'm sorry, in Behold the Pale. It's a scene in Fight the Future X Files when
Right.
Mulder's introduced to Alvin Kurtzweil in the
Right.
bar, and Kurtzweil is trying to convince him he needs to go back to Texas and dig, and he says, silent weapon for a quiet war. And I'm like, finally got my confirmation. That's the title of the first chapter in Behold the Pale Horse. that was my confirmation right then and there that the X Files, a lot of the stuff dealing with government conspiracies, agencies within the government, secret government, comes out to be Hold a Pale Horse. That was my confirmation right then and there. So when the X Files Museum opened and Chris Carter was going to be there, I had to ask him about it. He confirmed it. He
He
confirmed it
did.
after all these years. Yeah, he did. He said, "Yeah, I know all about Behold the Pale Horse." Yes, William Milton Cooper. He knew. So I was just ecstatic right then and there just to hear that from him. But this show is my life because after the show got started, of course, I got the Art Bell tapes, like I said, from Dave, and I heard that John Lear, Bob Lazar interview. I stayed in touch with the Art Bell show at that moment forward in my life and started listening to him heavy. I was listening to Art Bell heavy. And 5 years after the X Files came out, November 98, I think I had just looked that up today, and the fifth season started, I want to say the 8th of November. The fifth season started the 8th of November. Yeah, it was the 8th of November. I looked it up earlier. The 8th of November, the fifth season of the X Files started. So while the X Files is still going, we're in our fifth season. All that time prior to that, I was listening to Art Bell at night. In the
Mhm.
middle of the night, I was listening to Art Bell. So 4 days prior to the fifth season starting for the X Files, a guy came on Art's show talking about experience he had in Seattle, where he was able to attain an alien body, and he had videotape and pictures and this and that. So I'm like, okay. He came on for maybe like 10 minutes that night on the 4th of November in '98 and said he'd be back the following Friday to finish his story. So the X Files came on the 8th. And then 3 nights later, he came back on the Art Bell show and he goes into this long, drawn out story about what happened with him. And I'm like, cool, okay. So I stayed abreast of that story. I knew about that story. I'm still X Files, going with the X Files hard. So I'm just like, my life is now focused on, I'm still focused on spiritual awareness and development of my abilities. I'm still focused on the UFO and alien abduction and all the new stories coming out. But I stayed abreast of this show that I heard for the guy in Seattle on the Art Bell show. And then in 2001, I got a tape from the guy himself. He sent me a tape of his first lecture. So I'm staying abreast of it. And the point I'm making is the way Mulder, the character of the X Files, pursued information. I was doing the same thing.
Mhm.
I was doing the same thing like a character from a television show.
Wow.
So the inspiration, what I'm saying? The inspiration and motivation was reinforced by Chris Carter in that series. That's why I be telling people, like, I don't really like to talk because I know I sound kind of crazy, but that show has influenced me to do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff I really don't kind of like. I don't want to kind of like go into it right here because I don't want to seem like I'm promoting anything. But I was moving a lot like the way Mulder was moving. So the X Files has influenced my the remainder of my life from '93 has been heavily influenced by the X Files, and I was prepped before the X Files from a little child on up to that moment. It sounds crazy and nutty, but that's why I always try to make it a point to get to those conventions. No matter where it is, if I can get there, if I got enough time to do it, I'm gonna just pop up and be there. Let them know it's people that are really affected by the show, and I'm one of them. I mean, so much to the point where I had to like I cut off relationships because things started getting a little hectic, with my pursuits of information. So it ain't just a show to me; it's real life, and that's how I looked at it. If you got any questions, please let me know. Ask away, and I'm here to answer.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. I mean, sharing it like with our audience because we already talked about some of that when we met at File Fest, and this is why I wanted you on the show. I think it's so well interesting that I didn't know all the stuff about all those books that you've read that Chris Carter then confirmed that he was inspired by when he created the X Files. But what I do know is that when Chris Carter created the X Files, when he started creating the mythology of the show, he was very much inspired by a lot of the records and a lot of the information about alien, sightings and abductions and stuff like that. And this is what made the X-Files, especially, the first season usually tends to be like, the weakest when a new show
Yeah,
appears. But one of the reasons the first season of the X-Files was so strong is because they had such a strong foundation of this mythology. You can see that they did their homework. Chris Carter did his homework when he was
absolutely.
creating this mythology, with this mythology of alien abductions and alien sightings in our modern world. And when you mentioned that he actually did read the Pale Horse, that book, that was kind of a confirmation for me that, oh, this guy took his job seriously. This guy took his show seriously. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's another dimension. We talk about why the X-Files is so great, and it's because the writing is great, and Mulder and Scully have such great chemistry. But it's also little details like that, like taking the research seriously,
Yeah.
making it as authentic as possible and as close to real life conversations as possible. So
Hey, do
that's
you know?
yeah, go
No,
ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm listening. Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
You didn't cut me
Um,
off. I'm just taking a sip of
okay.
water.
Okay. Remember when I said I worked at the post office in 91, 92 before I left to go to Florida? I don't know the exact year. It had to be 91 or 92, but I read an article in the Washington Post one night on my break. I took break at 3 o'clock. From 3 to 3:30 we had break a.m. So
Hmm.
I'm reading the Washington Post, and there was an article in the Post about um, some gas escaping from a patient and killing the EMTs. This is
Hmm.
in 1991 or 92, right? So I'm like, I never forgot that that night I took that out of the I wasn't supposed to, but I took that page out and kept it. I don't know. I just thought it was amazing. Like what I was thinking, what kind of gas would we have in our bodies that could actually kill somebody? This is 1990 or 91 or 92. Might even been 90, and I
Hmm.
never forgot that. So X Files comes out. I don't remember the season where the bounty hunter or they kill one of the alien bounty hunters. They put the thing in the neck. They put the spike in the back of the neck, and the gas renders the person unconscious
Hmm.
or
Right,
paralyzed.
right.
Like remember when? Yeah. So I'm like, I read about stuff like this. I was like, this stuff is validity to that. So yeah, I looked that up and found an article. I did that about 2 or 3 times, like within the last 20 years, to find that article. It happened on the West Coast. So I'm saying that to say the stuff that they have in the X Files, it's not just science fiction. Some of that stuff has some validity to it. So you don't know who could be walking around and who could be what. But I remember they said they picked the guy up, they had him in the EMT, and whatever gas that was coming out of this guy's body dropped both of them. They died. They died right there.
Oh my God.
And that's a real life story. It wasn't like, it just rendered. It wasn't like in the files where Mulder was rendered unconscious, or he was not unconscious, but incapacitated, but he could talk. What I read was two EMTs dropped dead. And so when that came out in the file, I'm like, man, hold up, man, there's something to this stuff. These guys are actually showing you, they're giving you little tidbits of information that has validity to it. I'm pretty sure you can still like look for that and Google it. It'll come up
I
somewhere. I
will.
just haven't
I
done
will
it.
Google it.
Yeah, I just haven't. Yeah, I just haven't done it in the last 2 or 3 years. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I it's serious. The files, the X Files show is serious to me because the information is not just science fiction. They're not just putting on a show just to entertain you. They're actually releasing information in there that has some serious validity. So I'm thinking like the way I look at things, like it's more to it than just entertainment. They're actually trying to educate people. People need to be prepared. Why would all these? It's a few different movies where they illustrate aliens using humans as hosts. Why are these different shows, these different apparatuses, kind of giving you the same scenario? Why would they be doing that if it ain't something to that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like example, like I was just talking about this yesterday because I did an interview yesterday. In Close Encounters, I want to say in ET2, and then a movie Dark Skies. Three different movies about aliens, and they illustrate aliens being able to unscrew screws and vents. Why would they keep showing something that insignificant in three different movies over a span of 30 years? It has to be something to that. For them to keep illustrating that in this, like in Close Encounters, also they take children.
Right.
In Dark Skies, they take children. This has been a couple of other movies where they take children. Why would they keep giving the same scenario in different movies? There has to be something to it. The thing I know about them screws is that happened to me. That happened to me in my home. I live alone, and I was being harassed by these things. One morning I woke up, my bedroom door was closed. I live alone. I have no need to close my bedroom door, but I wake up, my door's closed. So I get up, look at the door, grab the door, and pull the door open. It falls out of the frame. The
Oh.
only thing that kept it up was the bottom hinge. It had two screws in it, and one screw was halfway out. It was like it had got stopped. It was like screwing itself out, but it stopped. So that the two screws on the bottom part of the hinge is the only thing that kept that door up. The two hinges in the middle and the top were totally out. The screws were totally out of the door frame. The screws were down in a little pile at my door frame, at my bedroom door frame, on the floor. They were in a little pile. So like it has to be something to why they put little illustrated little things in movies because there's reality to it. I lived through that. So that's why I was saying this television show is like a part of my life. I love it. And I will go to my grave thinking about the X Files, still pursuing the truth. I was joking to somebody. I said, I'm gonna have it on my tombstone, the X Files. Just like it looks on the TV, just like the insignia look. And I'm joking and laughing. I'm like, yeah, I'm half serious too, because that's what this show means to me. This is my life. I don't talk much. Me and you got to talking at the convention. If you wasn't there, I wouldn't have probably said a word to nobody, other than the
Right.
people that I knew from Saratoga. Like I knew Gordon, he was there. Gordon was there, so I knew him from Saratoga, so I would spoke to him. But most of the time, I'm a shy person. I'm a like very quiet, reserved person. I don't talk that much, kind of introverted. But this show is the thing that it brings a smile in my heart and my chest. It brings it out of me, and I gotta be at every event if I can make it. I gotta be there just to support it. That's just how I feel. That's how I
Well,
feel, and
I feel the same way. I mean, listen, I have an X-Files quote tattooed on my arm. So,
yeah.
like we're speaking the same language, but uh I am just when you say books, sorry, just my mind went to this book that my friend gave, well, actually gave it to my brother, but then my brother just gave it to me. It's called The X-Files, a book of the unexplained, and I only have the first
Mm-hmm.
volume, and I think there's like two or three volumes, and they came out in the 90s, so they're pretty old, but
Okay.
it's about the real life phenomena and real life, mythologies and stories that have inspired a lot of the episodes of the X Files. So I think I would really recommend that you check it out. It's called X Files Book of the Unexplained, and I can send you the link and the cover of the book on
I,
Messenger. So
yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it
you've
before.
seen it.
I've seen it before.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's very thoroughly researched, and it's like very well, I would say like objective. The writer, she does like jump to any conclusions, but she just
Yeah.
states, these are the facts, and this is what happened, and these are the people that were involved in this, and the X Files took inspiration from these events or these accounts, or so it's definitely recommend checking it out.
I absolutely will. I was just looking on Amazon maybe 3 or 4 days ago before I left Ohio because I'm working out of town like
Mm-hmm.
4 days out of the week, and I was surfing after work on Amazon, and I found some Audible books concerning X Files, and I
Right.
didn't get a chance to go. I didn't get a chance to continue the search, but I wanted to see exactly what they had in their catalog,
Yeah.
and I'm going to look for that because that's good listening material when I'm taking these drives to these conventions.
Oh,
I will
definitely,
be
absolutely.
definitely listening to them. Yeah, have you ever heard of Art Bell?
The name rings a bell.
Yeah, Art Bell was like he was the late night talk show host for the X Files. He was the X Files before the X Files. That
Oh.
was the guy that people listened there from like I think out here when I got a hold of him, I think his show came on at like 12:45, 12:30, 12:45, maybe 1 o'clock, and it would run from like 1 to like 5 in the morning, maybe 4:35 before the sun came up. But it ran for a long time throughout the night, and it was just stories. It was just like I said, it was all new age, paranormal, esoteric, metaphysics. Just look him up, Coast to Coast with Art Bell. He passed away in
I will.
2017. Yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
passed away in 2017. His audience was bigger than Howard Stern's audience,
Oh, wow.
but he didn't get the recognition because his show came on in the middle of the night and it didn't come on at prime time in the morning.
Of
So his
course.
show ran throughout the night. Back in like the early to mid '90s, his listening audience spanned like 25 million. So he had a
Mm-hmm.
huge audience, like worldwide, and they started going after him and they started trying to like bring his listening audience down. And they started accusing him of little things here and there. And I think he went off the air for maybe a half a year, came back. Then when he did that episode with that guy out of Seattle that I was talking about, when he did that, oh, he did it. It was before that he did that Hellbop, the Hellbop
The comment?
episode where they were remote viewing. He brought on some remote viewers to tell what was out there, and they were saying that the Hellbop Comet ain't a comet, it's a mothership. And remember the Heaven's Gate dudes that killed themselves, that cult,
Yes, yes, I remember.
Marshall Applewhite. They were listening to that show, and supposedly because the art show is why they did that, why they committed suicide.
Oh.
So Art was catching a lot of heat for that. They were trying to place blame on him, and then Art had that show with the dude from Seattle, and then they really went after him after that, and kind of they really harassed that guy for a while after that, and so he kind of like had to go into seclusion as far as basically like taking not doing the show for a while and letting other people take it over and then coming back later. I probably more I'm not doubting myself to be as accurate about that, but it was like after the Hellbot and that episode with the guy in Seattle, his show kind of took a downside a little bit. He started getting a lot of negative press, is what I should be saying.
Mm-hmm.
People started kind of going after him, and that's how that stuff goes. When you get a little too close to the truth, and, you're gonna catch resistance. So, you know, I'm being Mulder in real life. I started pursuing a lot of stuff, and I started having my own firsthand experiences with that resistance, and that's about all I'm gonna say about that. We can talk when we face to face at a convention. I flat out tell you what I was into, but I don't want to talk about it here. This is for the X Files period. So we're gonna leave it at that.
I mean, we can talk about whatever you're comfortable talking about here. And I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing you again. Probably won't be this year, as we discussed earlier, but I'm looking forward to seeing you again and seeing a bunch of other friends I made at File Fest. I still can't believe that actually happened. It feels like a dream. I don't know how it feels for you, but uh,
Yeah, no, I know. You're talking about the Saratoga, or you're talking about
File Fest,
Minneapolis?
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. That was
Yes,
incredible. That was
it was.
incredible. I could not believe I was there. You know, what I did was once once Gordon. I can't remember who it was. It was Gordon or it was the guy that was at the convention that had on. It was that dude, the big dude. You remember the big dude that had that Grays jersey on? That
Yes,
real big
yes,
dude.
yes.
He was
Yeah,
the
I
one that
remember.
told me about it. He was the one that was in Saratoga, and he
Okay, I
told me about it.
see.
Yep, he
I
was the one that
see.
said, "So you going to Minnesota?" And I was like, "What's in Minnesota?" And I'm sitting at the table, and I googled it, and I'm like, "Holy!" I was like, "Are you kidding me? How am I?" I would ask myself, "How am I supposed to miss this?" And I
Right?
sat there, and played it over my head for 2 weeks. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting my ticket right now. I reserved a plane ticket 2 weeks
You
after that,
you
after
flew.
Saratoga.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because I was coming from Pennsylvania, so I reserved my ticket 2 weeks after the Saratoga event. I'm at work one morning. I just went on and reserved a flight for the Minnesota convention. I reserved a flight while I was at work, and I was
You
like,
were,
"Well, I'm in now. There's no way I
yeah.
can turn back." So I paid that ticket. The ticket wasn't even that much. It was only like maybe 265, I believe, round trip. And it was for I flying in the morning at 6 a.m. Get to meet everybody who I wanted to meet, get to take my photo op, and then fly out at 6:30 p.m. back to
I
Pennsylvania. I did that all in one day.
I remember you said that you were only going to be there for one day, and that's
Yep.
I mean that's dedication. It must have been quite a whirlwind also, like fly in, just meet all the X-Files people, and then like, did it actually happen, or did I hallucinate this whole thing?
Yeah, I wish I had to turn my camera phone on and just got way more footage than I got. But I'm gonna get another shot at it.
I
You
mean,
know,
it was
it was
hard getting all the footage. I mean, I tried to take a lot of pictures, but there's so many people, and you want to talk to people and you want to interact, and sort of, taking pictures kind of gets in the way of that. So it was hard. It was
it
very
was
overwhelming. So, you either
yeah,
talk to everyone or you take pictures. So, I choose
the little
talking.
yeah the little footage that I have. I've watched it 60 to 70 times thus far. I just kept going over and over. I was actually there with these guys, man. These guys,
Right,
like I said,
right.
each show I'm telling you, each show I've seen at least 10 times. The only one, my number one X Files, and I had to tell him this. I had to meet him and tell him this, shake his hand. Was Steve Railsback, Dwayne Barry. That's the one I watched the
Ah,
most.
wow.
Dwayne Barry and Ascension, which is I want to say it's part two to Dwayne Barry.
Yes, yes.
Those are the ones I've watched. I've seen the Wayne Barry episode somewhere up in the 70s, 78. I've seen anything about 70, 80 times.
Oh, wow.
I even got it I got an iPod from like 2004. I have it in there. And I'm like, when I make these runs back and forth to Ohio, I listen to it. That
Oh,
is
you
my
must know
favorite.
it.
That's
You
my
must know
number
it by
one.
heart.
Yeah, yeah, that's my number one. And look, when Krychek came on the scene in that one, that's when I said, man, this is getting heavy. When he killed the tram operator, I'm like, these dudes are going hard. And he just vanished in the thin air. I was like, this show it's like not pulling no punches, man. This is how it really is. The government really
Right.
does do all that. I mean, we know they do that stuff, but for them to illustrate this stuff in the TV show, that was amazing to me. People, they have their stories and people write books about that type of stuff, but to see it illustrated on the television show, for me, at this time in Earth's history, at my age, 23, 24, 25, maybe there were shows before I was born of them, illustrating that, but I wasn't alive then. So this was the first show to me to actually illustrate, government agencies killing people, what
Mm.
I'm saying? Like, your syndicates. And have you ever had the chance to meet David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson?
Uh, David, I met David twice. Not Jillian. I met David twice. What about you?
Nah, I never met him. I never met him. I didn't like when the show was happening. I never considered even meeting them. I just figured they would be too big for me to even come across. So I never even pondered the thought that I would meet them one day. And then when this museum popped up, when they announced that museum and I got wind of it on the internet, I'm like, holy, I'm definitely got to go to this. I was so happy to see that popped up, that museum popped up, and they put that together. I'm like, thank Christ, thank the
Right,
Lord Almighty for that, because
right.
I don't want the show to fade away. I don't want the memory of the show or its
Oh my God.
prestige to kind of like just
I
fade
agree
away.
with you 100%. I don't think
It
it will fade
shouldn't.
away either. It shouldn't, and I
Yeah,
don't
I
think it
don't. It
will.
shouldn't. It shouldn't. It should
It's
not, man. That show was a great deal. It meant a great. I mean, it gave me like a lot of incentive just to keep, fighting a good fight, man. and like just the way that a lot of the episodes, like I like the episode with Reggie something. That was
Right.
beautiful. That was a beautiful tribute
Oh.
to nut jobs like us. That was a beautiful tribute because they basically put us in that show. That show was
Y-
basically about us. Reggie was supposed to be us.
Yeah,
You
absolutely,
know that?
absolutely.
You know,
He was
yeah,
the
yeah,
fan. He was the fan. He was the fandom. He was all the
yeah.
conspiracy guys and all the hardcore fans. Oh, yeah.
That was
Well,
hilarious.
I love that episode.
Yeah, that was hilarious. When they had the opening, right? They had the opening for the museum. So I'm in there, and I was talking to Jim. Now I didn't even know Jim was the owner. I was talking to him like I thought he was a patron. I thought
Uh-huh.
he was a fan. So I was talking to him, and we were talking about some of the episodes, and I was talking about the latest, latest season with Reggie something, and I was laughing at the alien. And I was like, yeah, that alien was crazy, man. And I said to Jim, I said, man, I think that was supposed to be Gazoo, the human representation of Gazoo from the Flintstones, because his head. Because if you remember the Flintstones, did you ever see the Flintstones? You might be too young
Yes,
for that.
yes, yes.
Because they used to have a little. Remember Gazoo? You remember
Yes.
Gazoo?
Yes, I do.
Well,
I
if
do.
you look at Gazoo, Gazoo had a white suit on with a cape, right? So look at the alien
Right.
coming down off, right? Look at the alien coming down off the escalator. I'm thinking, oh, this is supposed to be Gazoo, Gazoo, because they even had the sound effects from the Jetsons, and the Jetsons was made by the same people who did the Flintstones. So I'm like, that's got to be Gazoo. So I'm talking to Jim, and I'm telling him now. He's like, well, let's go ask Keith. He would probably know. And I'm like, who's Keith? He like, Keith the dude with the Kango. I'm like, Keith is the dude with the Kango. He's like, yeah. So I go over to Keith and I'm like asking him. Oh no! Before I go over to him, when Jim said that, let's go ask Keith. I was like, who? Dude with the Kango? He's like, yeah. He was the alien. I'm like, what? I was just talking to that guy. I didn't even know that. He's like, yeah. Keith went over to Keith. He was like, hey man, I didn't know you was that alien in forehead sweat. He's like, yeah, man, the one and only. That was so cool, man. And I was talking to him just before I talked to Jim. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I was talking to him about the show and how great the museum was. And then I went over to Jim and was talking to Jim, not knowing Jim was the owner. And then Jim says, well, let's go ask Keith. He is the guy. I was amazed. That was crazy. I wish I could have had that on video. That was
Oh
insane.
wow.
But man, yeah, damn, I'm so grateful to be alive right now. Is all I got to say. To be able to be amongst these folks, man, and be able to let them know that that show, it's like in my heart. It's in my heart forever. Like so, these conventions come up, I'm going to be there if I can make it. I'm going to be there. If I got enough time to get there, like if I hear about it like a week prior and it's like in California, more than likely no. But if I got 2 or 3 months to plan it out, I'm there. I don't care where it is in the states. I'm
Yeah.
there. I got my passport now, so I'm even thinking about crossing the waters, especially if Mulder and Scully won't pop up because they're doing a reboot, right? If they
Yes,
just so
yes.
happen to come and help promote the reboot, and it's overseas, I got to do it. I have to do it.
Well, listen, if there's gonna be something X-Files related here in Scandinavia, like I'm in Sweden, you're more than welcome to come here and we can meet up and we can hang out.
Absolutely. I've always needed an excuse to go to Sweden because Sweden, I heard, was beautiful. I look it
It
up
is
online. I'm
beautiful.
looking at the images, and I'm like, I have to go there one day. Sweden
It is
and
beautiful.
Switzerland.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's
Sweden
beautiful.
and Switzerland. I need excuses to go there, and the X Files will be the perfect excuse to spend the money to get over there. If you only live once, I mean, money is really just a means for to be able to build positive memories that will last a lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's
Why would I not
beautifully
go?
put.
Yeah, why would I not go? Yeah,
Right.
Lauren, the ones who did the X Files retrospective.
Mm.
Man, I got to talking. She interviewed me, and I got to talking, and I was running my mouth, and then everything just locked up on me, and I just stopped. I couldn't. My mind was running so fast, my mouth couldn't catch up, and I just had to stop, and pause. I was probably talking for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes nonstop, and then I don't know. My mind started going ahead of my mouth, and I just stopped. So I was like,
Mm.
man, that'd be kind of embarrassing. I even said, man, if you guys put this in there, please edit that out, because it was kind of humiliating, but I was like, man, I mean, you could kind of tell, like, I mean, that's why I try to calm myself down when it comes to the X Files. I try to calm myself down before I even start getting into it with somebody who might not know about the show, or even somebody that does know about the show and they love it just as much as me, man. But I love that show, man, and that's really about all I can say for right now. Unless you got some questions concerning anything else that I wrote down that shows you the pictures of. Now, I was gonna say, as a little kid, I mentioned having an experience. I had an experience that like it prepped me for this whole life. It prepped me for just keeping my head in my books and keeping my head on subject matters that deal with reality beyond the physical,
Right. Right.
and unexplainable. So that's why I said this. I needed this. This is what I needed. It's just like an upgrade from Twilight Zone. You know, as a little
Right.
kid, I'm
Right.
stuck to this thing watching Twilight Zone while all my friends they weren't into that. My friends weren't into the Twilight Zone. Why was I so obsessed with the Twilight Zone, which was an older TV show, which was before I was even born? Out of all my friends in my neighborhood, I was like the only one obsessed with Twilight Zone. So you can see my mind was in another space as a little
Right.
kid. So I needed the X Files. I needed the X Files. It came right at the height of my life. It came right at the prime of my life, right when I needed it. The exact moment I needed. I was alone in Hollywood. I was alone in Hollywood, Florida. My family was in Maryland, D.C. And I was alone down there, and that show was like family to me. That kept me, it kept me company. It definitely kept me company because when that's the only thing I could think. It made me fight the loneliness. That's why I was always watching episodes over and over and over. Until the next Sunday night when they aired the next episode. But it's family to me, and I truly appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. Just to let you know the love is still there. It's not going nowhere. And I think a lot of those guys that made those groups on Facebook, I still think those guys are out there. They just probably haven't been getting that many posts in their groups. But I think we can conjure that back up, the interest in the show in those groups. There's a lot of groups that are still out there that they sitting on Facebook, but I haven't seen that much activity. You know, if those are like to me, they're accounts that are on standby, waiting.
Mm. Right.
That's
Right.
how
Right.
that's how that's yeah, that's how I would play my accounts on YouTube. I would just post them up. I would activate the accounts and just have them sitting there waiting for their purpose to come. So yeah, anywhere there's an X File event, I'm there. And that's all I gotta say. If I can make it, I'm gonna be there. And that's all I gotta say. I appreciate it. So how often do you do podcasts or do these
Well,
shows?
my release schedule is once a month, so that
Mm-hmm.
it's not too hectic, so I don't have to stress every week or every 2 weeks, but it's also not too far apart, so that people won't lose interest. So it's once a month. So I work, I do research, I write the script throughout the month, and then I record, edit, and then I release episodes usually like at the end of the month. So like 28th, 29th. So this episode
Nice.
will, yeah, this will come up. I mean, I will edit it and I will record the intro. And I think it's gonna be up like next week, like in a week from now.
I appreciate it. I definitely please send me the link. I'm gonna put that on my page. I'll
I mean,
do what I can to put it on.
I'm going to, once I finished editing, I'm going to send you the file, the audio file, so you can listen to it and you can approve it. So
Oh,
I,
okay. Yeah, that's
I
cool.
take these
I
things very
appreciate it.
seriously so that, my guests, when you come on my show, you get the final say, like, what do you want to be in the episode or would you not want to be in the episode?
Okay. I
Right.
appreciate it, definitely. Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
Absolutely.
That's cool. All
Right.
right, Denari, I appreciate it so much. This has been
Well,
great, and yeah, you have made my night. I was actually watching. I watched the pilot. And then I watched the next episode, which I can't think of the name of it. It's right here
Deep
on
throat.
the DVD. Deep Throat, and I was just about to watch Squeeze when you sent me the text, and I was like, I thought you were at 6. I thought it was going to be 6 p.m. your time, and I thought it was going to be 12 a.m. my time. I thought it was going to be 12 midnight when I was going to be talking to
No,
you. When
it's
I
the
saw that
other way
text, I'm like,
around.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I was like, all right, hold on. I didn't want to lose you, but yeah. So yeah, that's crazy.
Well,
But thank you so
listen,
much, and we'll talk
I
soon.
am very happy. We'll talk soon, and I'm very happy and I'm very grateful that you know, that to have you on my show, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. So you have a
All right.
good rest of your X-Files watching night. Uh,
Yeah, I will. I will. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
well, thank you. Well, have a
Yeah,
good one.
you too. All right, bye bye.
Bye bye. A huge thank you to Dillon for sharing his story with us. Before we wrap this up, I just want to remind you that you can follow Katrine, the girl who wrote the wonderful theme song for this podcast, on Instagram at Kex und Frieden. Go follow her. She's amazing, an amazing musician. And I guess I'm gonna say goodbye for now. Like I said, there will be no episode next month, but come June, summer break, and I can start working on this beautiful, wonderful passion project that is this podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Also, before I forget, I created an open access folder on my Google Drive where I am sharing all of the sources that I use on this podcast. This podcast comes with a lot of researching and a lot of reading, and I always give credit to the people whose sources I have used, but I also want to have a separate space where I just have all the sources that you can access and read on your own. So there will be a link to that folder in the description of the episode. Well, thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you again in summer. Bye.